All right, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you and yours. It's noontime in our time zone. Even though my man's still drinking coffee over here, he's
Who said
working
it's
hard.
coffee? This could be a dark. This could be a dark beer.
It could be. It could. Hey, it could be coffee with a little whiskey in there. You never know.
Absolutely, I know how to fudge the numbers.
Let's welcome back to the show. He was just here actually a few months ago, and he's back again because he's a machine and he's writing music like crazy. The one and only Mr. Chip's Enuff. Chip, welcome back, man.
Good to be back, Chubby. Thanks for wanting to talk to me. I appreciate that. We get a chance to chat every year because I keep putting records out.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking before we went live, and you know, here's where I know Chip is sincere. Like he didn't say it on air; he said it to me. Like he thanked me, and he wanted to know that he's very appreciative that people like me still want to talk to him and do these interviews, as well as the fans still want to hear the music that he's up all night writing.
Absolutely, I meant that sincerely. It's a business that's predicated on friendships and relationships. We've certainly been out there for quite a long time making records. I think this new record will be my 25th or 26th album with Enough's Enough and solo records. If I add those in as well, it's been a long, illustrious career, and I know all musicians, not just me. Most of them, they feel that you can't take this for granted. It's a run that there's no expiration date until it's time, and if you can put records out continually every year like they did back in the '70s, it's really a special thing, and that's the template that I've used because it's not one record every 4 or 5 years. It's one record every year, if not 2 or 3, and that's special. The biggest fear is running out of songs. So far, I haven't done that, but there's plenty of fodder out there to write about. So,
oh, absolutely. So, all right, now how about though? Like, I was kind of shocked, when it started, the word started trickling out there and started getting the emails and everything that you're putting out a solo album. Why not another Enough's Enough album? Why do a solo album? Was it the record company's idea? Was it your idea? Did you just have an abundance of music?
No, I did both, Chubby. I'm with Frontiers Records here, and on the newest Enough's Enough stuff, and on the catalog material, we're under the umbrella of Cleopatra Records, another great label.
Okay.
Brian Pereira. So all the material from the early days up to 2010, I think it would be, is all that stuff is under Brian Pereira and Cleopatra Records, and then the newer records are all under the moniker of Frontiers. And Frontiers came to me and said, we want a solo record. So I knew I had to put one out there. It's not much different than making an Enough's Enough record. Of course, I don't have Tony Fennel, Tori Stoffragan, and Daniel Benjamin Hill on the album, and those guys are all formidable players. However, I did get Daniel to play on some stuff on the new record because he's not only a great drummer, but he's also a wonderful orchestrator and arranger. He comes up with nice keyboard parts and synthesizer parts and mellotron and harpsichord. He's really good at getting those sounds. So I thought he'd be great on the record as well. But the label insisted on a solo record. I had one out already called Strange Time, which is on Cleopatra Records. And it did really well for us. That album's got Dale Bazio from Missing Persons, who I used to play in Missing Persons, a lot of people know, and Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses, and Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, and Slash we had a solo of his on there from a long time ago. So I thought it's only fitting that here we are. That was, I think, 2014. Here we are almost 8 years later, and Frontiers wants a solo record, and I wasn't about to say no, so I went in the studio, started laying down a bunch of songs, and called a couple of my friends, by the way. As I was doing the solo record, I called Joe Holstra from Whitesnake.
Okay.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He's also in the iconic, now a new band that's out, a super group. And he says, Chip, I've known Joe for a long time. He played in the band here in Blue Island. I used to go see him when he was a little kid, 15 years old. We were already taking off doing well with New Thing and Fly Michelle and the first album, and I'd get off tour and I'd go see him in his band. I was friends with his drummer, Randy Matheson, and he'd come by the house and see me. And I was living in Beverly, in Chicago, on the south side, Beverly Hills. And they'd come by and see me. And I thought, I'm going to go support those cats. And that's the kind of guy I am. I want to see the newer bands do well. And I went and seen him, and I left an indelible mark. He's been hailing me ever since. So when the time came to play on the record, I called him, and he said I'd be honored to. And played on 3-4 songs, which I thought was fantastic. I should have got him on the whole record. He's such a fabulous player. Didn't say one word to him, just let him play in 1 or 2 takes. The guy's incredible. He really is a solid rock player. And then I went and called Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick, too, and said, Dax, I'm doing a solo record. Would you like to? Before I could finish the sentence, he goes, yeah, send it to me. And he recorded it over in Rockford, Illinois. A wonderful sense of balance on drums. So went out and got a couple of great guys along with Daniel Benjamin Hill and started making the record. And I just looked at what was happening in the landscape here in the world, and it's my heroin love letter to the new generation. That's exactly what the record is. And it's rock solid. I'm not saying all my records are great, and I'm not here to change the world. I just want to write songs and put some stuff out there, and maybe perhaps it'll make you think about what's happening around you, and choose and pick and decide on what your fate is going to be. And I think it's another rock solid record, I'd like to believe.
Somebody else that's on this one as well, he was on your first one you already mentioned. And every time I saw his name on there, I was thinking to myself, wow, you even played in Adler's Appetite with him for a little while. Steven Adler, you guys have a truly amazing relationship, it seems. And it seems also, too, you have a lot of confidence in him. Everybody knows his past troubles and all, but it seems like you've been there as not only a peer and musician to play with, but you have been there as a friend as well, it seems.
Absolutely. I don't hold any grudges. Listen, there's a lot of messages you'll hear from different people, and people like to see dissensions sometimes. Not all people, but there's a few out there. And
Sure.
Steven's the kind of guy I've never turned my back on. He moved out here to Blue Island, Illinois in 2011 to get away from all that rigmarole that was happening in Los Angeles. While he was here, he checked the drums every single day and played drum beats, and my engineer would record all this stuff. I got 2 albums with the material of Steven playing drums I can write songs around. He's got a fabulous swing, as the guys in Guns N' Roses will tell you, too. And a lot of those stories from the old days that Steven talked about, they were true. The whole band was jacked up, not just him. Of course, Axel wasn't in the drugs, but the rest of the cats were. And, Steven was just going down the same path. He wishes he never tried that, but he's cleaned his act up. He's done pretty well. And a lot of those tracks, I just revisited when I was doing this record. I wanted to do something special, not only for myself, but for the fans and for Frontiers Records. They wanted some big names on the record. And I thought, well, perhaps, if I could, some of these guys that play on it, that'll be good enough, because, time is of the essence. Yeah. So I went back in the library and picked out some stuff, and I found the Honeylucci Boogie, the old Mata Hoopa cover that we did years and years ago, where Steven just came in. He was just playing on the drums. He wasn't even playing no click track or anything, by the way. It's just him swinging. He's got a wonderful sense of balance. And I said, maybe I'll add this onto the record. And I think I made a good choice right there. I've always paid respect to our forebears. Mm-hmm. Mata Hoopa, I'm a huge fan of Ian Hunter's, and I love that band from the early days when my father turned me on to those records. I remember when David Bowie wrote All the Young Dudes and gave it to him on a lark when they were looking for hit songs. They were the first band to take out Queen on their first tour. I have nothing but love in my heart for that group, and if I can help them out in any single way, if the song reaches some people, and a movie, a soundtrack, a TV show, a commercial, anything, and see Ian, he's got to be 80 years old right now, wetting his beak on some sync money, that'd be a good thing too. But more importantly for me, I got a chance to put out a song with one of my favorite bands, with one of my favorite drummers in the world. So I think that's a pleasant surprise, and I think the fans are going to hail it beyond belief.
Absolutely. I've met Steven a few times, and every time I've met the guy, he gives me like the biggest hug, and you can just tell like he just holds on because he just appreciates life now. Like we said earlier, like he's just happy every day, man. He's
charming to a fault. I lived with him in Studio City for about 6-7 years with him and his lovely wife and their doggies. And when I seen him recently, I asked him, I said, why don't we go out and do a run together? Because in the old days, Enough's Enough, and Adler's Appetite would do some shows together. We played Big
Right.
Toyota Park out here in Chicago. It was fantastic. And Steven goes, Chippy, I just can't do that. I only want to go out for the weekends. I'll miss the doggies. So he loves his family, loves his dogs.
That's
And,
awesome.
if he really wanted to, I'm sure he could get back in the good graces of GNR and maybe do a couple of shows and some special things. And perhaps he will one day. But right now, he is content hanging out at his home in Studio City, watching Family Guy and American Dad and South Park. He just loves cartoons beyond belief. And, of course, listening to his records, Frankie Valli and the Fourth Season, Striper, and Queen. He just loves those bands beyond belief. Maybe he's listening to a little Enough's Enough too. It wouldn't shock me, because when I lived at his house, we put records on all the time. He'd play CDs, by the way. He wouldn't play records, but he had a nice CD collection. He'd play all the records, and we'd sit outside in the backyard with the doggies and hang out and just talk shop. He loves his family. Okay, he's come from he came from a broken home. He turned his life around. His family embraced him. He embraced them. He's had some success. It's been a real roller coaster for him, and it's just a real honor to still have him in my life. Don't really talk to him a lot right now. It's more, unless he comes to Chicago, it's more text messages and emojis. Chip, I love you. I miss you. So it's nice. But I've called him a few times just to say, hey, we're getting ready to put a record out, and I'm going to have you on a track. But I never heard anything back from him, so I'm sure he's content where he's at right now, and perhaps you'll be hearing more about him sometime in 2022 when Adler's Appetite goes out on tour.
Good. Now, actually, the first single off the upcoming solo album, which I love the title, "Perfectly Imperfect," which we all are.
That's for sure.
"Heaven in a Bottle," which you co-wrote with Donnie, your old brother and partner in Enough's Enough, Donnie V. Did you think about having Donnie on the album at all, or?
No, the solo record, although I did sing and play on a track on his solo record, Party Time, and I shot the video with him as well. No, I didn't even think about that. I look at the songs as perhaps a chance to lift up our perception, and maybe there's a chance that we can get these songs out there and more people can hear the great stuff that Donnie and I have written together. And that song is no exception. That's one of the 350 songs that we've written together. So wow. I thought it was a good track. It's never been released, and I wanted to do something nice for both of us. And a lot of people dug the song. I played it for a few of my constituents, and they said, "No, Heaven in a Bottle, what's that about?" I said, I like to leave the songs up to be interpreted by the listener. I'd rather not say what it's about in my eyes or through my purple colored glasses, but it's a pop song, It's as nice. It's got nice melody line and a few metaphors in there, and it's a good song at the end of the day. And that's what it's all about. Look, we've been doing this for a long, long time, and it's only fitting that if I find any nuggets out there to share them with the audience, and I think I did on Heaven in a Bottle. Good video, by the way, too. Shot the video here on December 5th. I pulled out my old 1957 Porsche Speedster that Steven Adler bought me for my birthday on one of the tours. And I took it was the last day of warm weather here in Chicago, 61 degrees. I shot it with a film company out here called Jaffe Films, and they were fabulous. And we shot it one day right here in my lovely little town called Blue Island, Illinois. And he edited the video up and put it out, and it's done pretty well for us. It's got a lot of eyes and ears in the last month or so on YouTube. So if anybody wants to get a chance to check it out, Heaven in a Bottle on YouTube, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely. Now something I really realized too, like going back and listening to your previous solo album, that one seemed darker. Like it was like a different Chip's Enuff, I felt like, compared to, this one's more classic sound than Chip, Enough's Enough style, but that one was a little darker, it seemed.
Yeah, well, you're probably right there. I was recording that record on the south side of Chicago. Donnie left the band for the second time, so I was pretty much on my own there. I was asked if I could do a solo record from the label, and I said, yeah, I would. And I'd already devolved into the record. I was probably halfway through it when I was told that I might have a home for it. we did everything on 2-inch. So for anybody listening out there, there was no Pro Tools back at those days. Even though the advent of Pro Tools was around, we weren't using that. We were still from the old school. So we had a 2-inch machine, a 1/2-inch machine. We had a console, a big, huge console we were recording with, old Neotech, really clean EQ. It was really very nice. And it was basically the band going in there, learning the songs and bashing them out live. And, I had the guys, the bass player from Black Sabbath, Geezer Butler's son was in there, Biff, who played in Apartment 27. He came down and sang. And from there, I started getting other musicians to come down and play with me. And it was trial and error, just hoping I could get cats to play. And I wanted to do something a little different enough stuff. I wanted to do something that was more like a stoner rock record,
Right.
A little psychedelic, a little hippie-esque, but with good performances. And after getting Robin Zander to come down and sing on All Day and All Night, which coincidentally was the first song he played with Cheap Trick when he joined that band, I thought that was interesting. And we bashed that one out there, and then we started going through a whole bunch of songs. And then I had my record with Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses intact at that time, that 5-song EP that we were sending around for movies and soundtracks and commercials, trying to get some little bit of action happening there. And the label's idea was to combine them both together and put together a 15-song record, call it Strange Time. They did all the artwork. I didn't do anything except write the songs on that record. Most of the songs, not all of them. There was a little help from different artists. I nicked from Steve Miller on one song called F. Mary Kill that was written with Howard Stern. And Steve said, keep the publishing. I wish you luck on the record. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful musician who cares about his brothers. And then I had a couple other things that I thought were interesting too. There was a friend of mine gave me a demo tape of old 9 Inch Nails demos that he had, and there was one song that was on it I thought was interesting. Strange Time was actually the track that I wrote, and I had some of the parts on there. There was the riff that was on there. The main riff was a Trent Reznor riff, so I credited him on the record as well, because let's be respectful on that to the guys who come up with great ideas. And then I went through the rest of the record. McCartney's on one song, as a matter of fact, with me and Steven Adler. The pain is all on you. It's a record that's chock full of wonderful musicians and players that are on that album. And it didn't get a huge, big push until I put it out on Cleopatra. But now here we are 8 years later, and a lot of people are come up to me and they love that record. And I usually have them at the merch booth at our concerts around the country. And I'm glad to get that music out there in any way I can. And I'm very proud of it. So, the approach was to make a record a little bit different. Enough's enough. And I think I succeeded.
Absolutely. Do you think, like, is it kind of shocking to you, like, when you really, when you started Enough's Enough back in the mid '80s and it really started to become something and explode, all these years later, 30 plus years later, does it shock you that you're still doing this? I mean, did you really picture it at that time that you'd still be doing this now in 2022?
Sure, yeah, of course. Nobody gears up for a band for failure. At least I don't know anybody that does. We got breaks in the early days. We went through tough times. No dough. Had an apartment in Blue Island where I still live. By the way, I live in a house now, though. But I had an apartment in Blue Island, no electricity. We had to plug in stuff in the middle of the night in the hallway to get electricity to come on in the daytime. We had an ice box that we use to keep our stuff cool and fresh. No refrigerator, no telephone, so we hooked up telephone on a line that was in front of the house. So when the calls came in, we were able to at least make calls. We couldn't get them, but we could make them because it was hooked into a bunch of other people's lines. We did a few things that were quite illegal, to be honest with you, but it certainly didn't hurt anybody. And we made a record under stringent conditions. And then our management company at the time heard it, and they thought it got something special. And we went to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin with the demos. There were cassette tapes, by the way. We were recording everything on a 4-track Foster. It was just Donnie and myself and a drum machine. And then we took that over to Lake Geneva, and then it just so happened that Skid Row was in the studio making a record. And we gave those demos to our management company, who in turn gave them to Doc McGee. Doc says he loved the stuff. He goes, I got 3 cassette tapes in my car, Chip. 2 of them are your band. I said, oh, I appreciate that. And he goes, I got a friend of mine over at a label who signed Cinderella and Bon Jovi, and I think he'd be interested in this stuff. I'm going to give it to him. I said, oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Not thinking anything was going to happen, but it was great. It was another piece of wood in the fire. And lo and behold, label heard it, loved it, came out, signed the band a couple days later. We went from poverty overnight to a record deal and a little bit of publishing money. So anybody out there that's struggling right there making music, don't stop, folks. It's there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Luck is the rest of design.
Wow, but it's very different though now, the music business, especially for rock and roll.
You still got to make. You're right, Chubby. It is different right now, but what isn't different is being creative and writing songs and getting out there and playing shows. You can still do that. And nowadays, maybe that's the template back. Maybe we're going back, and it's Benjamin Button, where now it's 1960s, really 2022 music-wise. You put the music out there, and instead of waiting for a label to help you or anything, you just go out and work yourself and try to get shows and open for the biggest bands you can, like Enuff did in the early days when we opened for BTO or Cheap Trick or whoever was coming through town. We just took gigs for no money, and you set up a little merch table and you sell your CDs with a good show and a strong performance. People are going to come want to talk to you. And maybe that's the way they sell records right now. And perhaps somebody out in the crowd will be a producer out there or an engineer, somebody that's in the music business that's doing movies or soundtracks or it's TV, and hears it and goes, I want to help these guys. You just can't say, oh, there's some business has changed exponentially. I mean, you have Spotify right now and Deezer and some of these musical places where you can go and people will download your music too. So we didn't have that back in the old days. Of course, you don't get paid for that, but you get paid for playing shows. You get paid for selling records. So maybe that's the way to do it right now until you can find another place or another avenue.
Absolutely. So what's I know Enuff's got some shows coming up. Are you going to be putting out another album soon with those guys of originals now? And you just did the Beatles album.
Yeah, we did the Beatles record before that. 8 months before that, we put out Brainwashed Generation, which has Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater on there, along with Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and some good guys playing on the record. And that record did good enough to where the label said we want the next 3. So in late November, we put out Hard Rock Night, which is all Beatles songs, but performed, through our eyes. It's a reinterpret of those great iconic songs by John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And that record's done very well for us. And now the solo record comes out Perfectly Imperfect. And the Enuff's Enough, the Chip's Enough solo record will probably come out on the heels of the next Enuff's Enough album, which will be, I can't tell you what the title is right now until the label gives me permission, but a rock solid 10-song record with some killer guys playing on it. And that I'm real proud of beyond belief. And so that's 3 albums in the last 6 months. I don't know how much more I can do like that. I also produced the Steve Ramone record that comes out on, I think that's out on Pavement Records, coming out in the next couple of months. And I also produced the Midnight Devils. They're from Nebraska, a punk rock band. They're fabulous. And their record comes out in a couple of months too. So 5 records in 6 months, Chubby. Can't call me lazy. It wouldn't work.
Yeah. So what's the secret, Chip? How the hell do you do all that? Like, I mean, like, and I was wondering this with a lot of artists, especially who are doing, multiple bands that are actually touring with both bands and all. But how do you do all that at one shot? I mean, how far in the future do you have to look to plan and plot to do those stuff?
I also want to mention I also produced the Markishi record, Markishi.com, just like it sounds. And that's a fabulous album, too, with some great players. So that's 6 albums I've done in 6 months. How do I do it? Well, first of all, blessing from the good Lord, that's for sure. Somebody's looking over me. But some of these musicians come in here and they got some fabulous ideas. And all I got to do is get in there and give them my template on what you need to do to make a great record. And, a good producer is somebody that helps the artist, gives them a great performance, makes them feel comfortable. That's the most important thing, especially with a great musician. So I go out there and make these records, and we're in the studio, whether it's here in Blue Island at my studio, Chips and Up Studios, or perhaps I'm down at Chicago Recording Company, a historical place where everybody's made albums, or maybe Stonecutter Studio with the great Chris Steinmans, who's he's done Kiss and Alice Cooper and Ozzy and all the great bands. So I try to surround myself with good people out there, get a great vibe, and then just dive into the music. And that's what I've done on every single record, including my own. And I think that at the end of the day, my legacy, which I hate to say legacy, like it's like we could put a fork in me, because I know I got more music in me, but
Absolutely.
the legacy basically will be, making records and putting out strong songs with different artists. I love to share the stage with my constituents.
Nice. I love it. Just two questions, and I'll let you go. One question I wanted to ask you last time too, and I didn't get to, but was what happened to Alex Kane? He was in Enough's Enough, and then it was like, where'd he go?
Yeah, the great Alex Kane was in Enough's Enough in the early days. We put the band together, and then he left. Derek Frigo joined. Alex went and put together Life, Sex, and Death, and they had great success over at Warner Brothers Records.
Right.
Alex was last year during the shutdown. Alex is taking care of his mother. He loves his mom beyond belief. Wonderful woman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was producing records too at the time. He just didn't have the moments in his catalog to say, you know what, maybe I'll just come back out and start playing shows, when the common denominator was take care of your family. That's the most important thing. And he knew that. And he works with different bands too. Pump 5, he was out with for a while, and he was doing stuff with the Great Stars. Yeah. And he was producing records as well. It was time for him to take a little break. That's all. And when he said he was going to do that, I thought that was very commendable. And
Absolutely.
A wonderful guy that loves his mom and loves his family and loves his doggy. Who doesn't love doggies? Who doesn't love their mom? So he went out and says, I'm going to take care of my family. Perhaps you go back and grab your guy, Tony Fennel, who's been with us for years. Tony, after the 2019 tour, took a little break. He had to take care of his family as well. Alex came back into the fold, played for a year and a half, did the Brainwash Generation record with me, and then went back to taking care of his family. Fennel was open. He says, I'm jonesing to get back out there. Thanks for calling me. Count me in. I'm ready to do it. Came back. It was like no one missed anything, because they knew who Fennel was. They knew him from Ultravox and Edwin Starr and all the bands he's played with. So it was a nice transition. Right now, I just talked to Alex recently. So actually, he sent me a couple of songs. Fabulous songwriter, some really good songs and great ideas that I definitely want to use them in the future. And maybe he'll produce them. We'll see. Only time will tell. But Fennel, have him back on board. Great, wonderful singer, songwriter, great producer. Band's strong as ever right now, and I'm happy to see what the future holds for us, because there's plenty of shows that are coming up. Our record company's doing really well. Both record companies pushing the product out there. I think you'll see a tour that's happening. We had a wonderful opportunity to go out with Missing Persons, one in Rome, and Bow Wow Wow. It got pushed to the side. I just talked to the manager of Missing Persons, and he says to me that we're still going to do a Chip. We're just working things out. His name's Howie Huberman. He used to work with Poison a long time ago. Fabulous guy. And I know Dale's got a new book out for Missing Persons called Life is So Strange. So perhaps she'll want to get back on the bus and go out and tour. But in the meantime, we're going to go out on the Glam Slam Metal Jam tour. It'll be us, Pretty Boy Floyd, and I think it's the Midnight Devils will be on there, and one other band. So that starts in June. In the meantime, we got gigs coming up all through April and May to work us out until the tour happens. It's going to be the Wild West out there. You got that stadium tour with Motley Crue, Poison, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Def Leppard, and Class of Act. That's going to be cool. And, of course, you got the tour with the Black Crowes are going back out there again. And also Rod Stewart and Cheap Trick are going to be touring around the country. And that's just counting, Megadeth and Lamb of God are out there, and Wolfie Van Halen and WVH going out there with Dirty Honey. It's going to be fantastic. It's really a good time for rock and roll and heavy metal. And I know the fans are going to want to come out and see those shows. A lot of them are in arenas and sheds. I'll be out in the clubs and playing small theaters. Ticket prices won't be exuberant. And you'll see great bands that have had MTV hits and success through the whole career coming out and giving you a great show in a small venue. I think it's going to be fabulous. At the end of the day, it's about work, work, and work. Get out there and play. Maybe I'll be in a bus this time again. Last year I did it with Faster Pussycat. We were in a beautiful Journey Tour bus. Well, that one's still broke down right now, but maybe we'll be out there in a van or perhaps an Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon. But I promise you, we'll be coming to your town. We'll be kicking some ass, playing all the records for you, from the early material of Enough Snuff to what we've done recently. And it should be a nice potpourri set of great songs.
Actually, aren't you? I think you guys are coming here to Nashville for what was it, Creatures Fest in May, right?
That's correct. May 27th through 29th. Ace Frehley, of course. Peter Criss just signed on. He'll be doing it as well. He's going to come out and play a couple songs. Vinnie Vincent will be there with his Del Deegan double nits. A lot of people want to see him. He's an enigma. He just doesn't come out very often. That'd be great to get him up to play. And, of course, Bruce Kulick, my good friend who does the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camps with me, he'll be there as well. Speaking of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, next week I'll be out there in Florida with Joe Perry from Aerosmith. Anybody wants to play with me and Joe Perry, it's pretty simple. rockandrollfantasycamp.com. You get a chance to play with your favorite rock stars. And Joe Perry, it's incredible. We share the same birthday, and we share the same enthusiastic love for rock and roll and heavy metal. And I'll be spending 3 days with him in beautiful, warm Florida. I can't wait, bro.
That's awesome.
Oh, and Chubby, anybody wants to check me out, too, during the week, 6 days a week, I'm on the Monsters of Rock on the Dash Radio Network. There's two satellite stations, Sirius XM and Dash Radio. So go to dashradio.com, download the app, go to channel 502, Monsters of Rock. That's me. I'm on there with Arlen, Rudy Sarzo, and some beautiful girls over there. Claudia Comedy, she's wonderful. And, of course, Carrie Stevens has her own program on there as well. Monsters of Rock on the Dash Radio Network. I'm on 6 days a week. That's a lot of people call me for shows because they want the free publicity. I have 900,000 people a day listening to our show, and it's nothing but hard rock and heavy metal 24/7. The whole alphabet A through Z. Probably have about 75,000 songs to pick through our repertoire, and it's not your standard terrestrial radio. We are picking them out. We have a wonderful discography of material that we're playing. It's everybody from Greta Van Fleet, Rival Sons, Dirty Honey, down to Queen, Cheap Trick, Metallica. It's all on there, bro. And I expose all those warts and scars that we all carry.
Well, the last thing I'll throw up there at you is I keep seeing he's just spinning around that great Howard Stern classic poster from one of his releases years ago. So
you can't go wrong there. I'm hanging out with Howard. He signed this for me. He signed a bunch of stuff. He signed about 300 books with me when his book came out. And we opened for Howard in Philadelphia. His book signing party was Dee Snider and Enuff Snuff and Howard Stern. And then after that, we were called. Yeah, and 500,000 people. It was every street was jam-packed, blocks and blocks away. What a celebration that was! Great times. We were all just hanging out with all the trim that was there and smoking pot. Everybody was really having a lot of fun. Dee Snider's not a big pot fan, but he loved hanging out with us. I know that.
I had the most fun that day, but I was still so pissed off because, there was only so many books Howard could sign that day, and my book was not one of them.
Yeah, we signed. I went down and signed books in the crowd. I know Howard signed them in the store, but I went out there and he signed a bunch of books inside the store and then gave them to me, and I went out and passed them out. Unfortunately, Chubby, I didn't see you there, but I know that there's at least a few hundred books out there. We both signed. I was really proud of it at the time that it'd be a part of something like that. Then afterwards, I think he called us for his birthday party. We played on Tavern on Rush. They rented Tavern on Rush out, and everybody showed up there, from the Ramones to Phoebe Snow. I seen May Pang that was there, Lennon's old girlfriend, and then of course the great late Leslie West was there, and T-Bone Walk from Hall & Oates, and Max Weinberg. We all got up on stage and played. Peter Wolf got up there. We did Love Stinks together. Just a wonderful time right there, hanging out with those cats, and just some great musicians. A lot of fun there. We almost got thrown out there for smoking pot inside the tavern on the Green. Tavern on the Green does not want pot to be smoked in their beautiful place, but overall it was a fantastic success. Got a chance to play with all the bands there that day and share the stage with everybody. I remember Leslie West saying to me, "Chip, this show sucked. until you guys got up there and started playing Revolution. I thought it was funny. Took pictures of everybody there, had a great time. It was really a lot of fun. Left an indelible mark with me, how you can throw a party like that and not go to jail.
So all these memories and all this you got, you going to write a book?
Yeah, I have been. I've been working on it about for the last 4 or 5 years, on and off. And listen, it takes a lot of time. I have all the stories. I have 8 or 9 hours of just me talking in the studio. I just need a pen to paper. I've had a couple of people that want to help me out on that, which I thought would be really nice. And perhaps that story will come out in the next year or so. Yeah, got great stories. They're all true, very transparent. A real book with no phony stories about the life and times of Enuff's Enough.
Nice. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Just like I love the new solo album, Chip,
Thanks,
and I love you. You're the man. Perfectly Imperfect is the new solo album from Chip's Enuff. Go out there.
Yep.
Physical copies. Is there physical copies?
Physical copies. You can get it on vinyl. You can get it on CD.
Okay.
You can go to Amazon, iTunes, Rhapsody. You want to not buy it, just go to Spotify. I want people to hear the record. I'm very excited about it. Perfectly Imperfect on Frontiers Records. Out in 2 weeks. I'll see everybody on the road out there. Quick, Chubby, a shout out to all our nurses, our military, our doctors, our firemen,
Absolutely.
all the frontline workers out there, the cats driving the semis and trucks, and the local drug dealer across the street from 7-Eleven, who's very important to me, that's for sure. God bless you all. Thanks, Chubby.
You too, Chip. Take care, my man.
All right, buddy. God bless you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.